Single digits in terms of days away from being an official season, or at least kicking one off in 2021. I'm Nick Kypreos. This is the Real Kyper at Noon, off-season edition. Of course, we want to put those to bed real soon here and get to the real stuff. Before we do that, we've got to get through one more division here, and one probably near and dear to our hearts here in Canada, and that is the North Division. I don't even know what the official... Is it a bank? Is it a Walmart? What are we calling this division? We'll just go with North for now. Joining me now, a very comfortable Doug Maclean. Mac, just before opening up this segment, Mac says, I got to go get something. Mac, show them what you went and got.
Pillow with sandals on it. Sorry.
Are you comfortable, Mac?
Listen, let's give the NHL some tips right off the bat. We have the Canadian division, the North, whatever they want to call it, whatever they sold it as. Let's add Seattle to the Canadian division, and we have our 8 teams, and leave everybody else alone. Let's go with the 7 Canadian teams, Seattle, Kraken, and off we go. Let's leave it at that.
You're talking about permanently?
Permanently.
No, too expensive.
It's only money. They can sell more ads on the helmets.
You okay with that? Some traditionalists hate it. I don't mind it in this instance, but I don't want to see a friggin' NHL jersey look like a NASCAR.
Going over to Europe, it used to drive me crazy. I went over. Clark was playing in Austria and then Sweden, and I remember going over to. Head to toe covered. But you know what? It's a bad year for the owners. They need the extra cash, sell whatever they want this year. But let's take a step back before we come back permanently and talk about what we really want to do here. But, money's tight for everybody.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everybody. In terms of off-season edition, this will be one of the last few before we play for real. We got to get through the Canadian division. Before we do that, we know that the World Junior Championship was put to bed, and I know the USA team won when I heard and saw Joe Holka chirping you, Mac, on Twitter on the Canadian loss. Joe, where are you, buddy? You want to pump your fist a little bit more here in terms of giving it to Mac?
First time I realized Joe was even an American, to be quite honest. I thought he was a Canadian because he played a little hockey. But anyway.
Joe is so overwhelmed with that championship that we've lost him right now. But I will get him.
That's a good thing.
I will get him here before this segment's over just to rub it in your face a little bit more. But quick comment on the USA win on a team where people were talking about this Canadian team being one of the best in history. And Mac, they were a no-show.
After a team that had such a free ride to get into the gold medal, and easy run because they dominated the teams. I didn't like them in the first two. The third period they had the chances. Montreal, I thought the U.S. played faster. Their forwards were a fast group. I was disappointed, to say the least, but hey, give full marks to the USA team. They played well.
There is something to say that adversity can help you win Stanley Cups over the course of 4 rounds and 2 months. I know what being down and out in the conference final did for us in '94. The Canadian team had none of that. They virtually led every moment of this tournament, right. And they had nothing to draw on when they needed it, going down 1-0 and then 2-0.
And then they just couldn't generate them. I thought USA really snuffed them out defensively. They did a great job slowing it down, good defensive play, good defensive positioning. And then Knight in the third period was the difference for me. Canada come on, and they couldn't match him. He was that good in the third, I thought.
Knight, property of the Florida Panthers. Yep. I think Florida would have been a lot more excited if they knew Brodie still didn't have $100 million left on his deal, and a gazillion more years. Mac, where is Knight going to play? Where is he going to play?
Thinking about? I mean, they had Knight when they did this deal, but I mean, let's not blame Dale Talon here. Vinny Viola wanted Bobrovsky and Panarin, and he wanted them fast, and he wanted them both, and he got Bobrovsky, and he also wanted the big boy from Ottawa that ended up going to Vegas. Those are the three players that Talon was told to go get. He ended up getting Bobrovsky, and maybe he would have been better off to take the two forwards and leave Bobrovsky, letting Knight come in and be their go-to guy for the future. But he's still a kid.
All right, he's Doug Maclean. I'm Nick Kypreos. This is off-season edition of the Real Kyper at Noon show. We're going to get it going the moment we get puck drop, January 13th. But in the meantime, let's go through the Canadian division, Mac. We look at this one with great intrigue. Mac, is it safe to say that, with the exception of the Ottawa Senators, not winning a Stanley Cup is okay for any of the teams in Canada, but it will be devastating for the rest of them to miss the playoffs. And in saying that, are there jobs on the line this season with many of the clubs in Canada?
Well, I don't know if there's jobs on the line, but there's certainly a ton of pressure on some cities. Edmonton, the jobs aren't going to be lost because Tippett and Holland are new there, so they're going to get time.
Okay,
Calgary,
that's iffy. Fair, but
Calgary,
you look at
Calgary could be iffy. They got to have a big year.
Tree Living in Calgary can't miss the playoffs.
No.
Okay, Jim Benning after that run in the bubble can't really make them miss the playoffs. Cheveldayoff has a team that still has to make the playoffs. And then, of course, in Toronto, they don't have to win the Stanley Cup, but they're going to have to go deeper than the first round.
Bergevin has got right now, I mean, he's got the GM of the Year award, according to many.
But he has to make the playoffs now.
He has to make the playoffs as well. So, look, the only guy that doesn't have to make the playoffs is Pierre Dorion. And don't think the guy in Bahamas, Bermuda, wherever he has his horse farm and his sports bar where he can watch all the goings on, he's expecting a big improvement out of the Sens this year. And as I said on Ottawa radio a week ago, tell Eugene to stop talking Stanley Cup. Focus, Eugene, on making the playoffs, and then we can move on to Stanley Cup talk. But, there's pressure in every Canadian city all the time.
Okay, so let's start there. In terms of, we're going to work out of the 7 teams in Canada. Let's work from the bottom up to the top. Are we okay with saying that the Ottawa Senators will finish dead last in this division?
I had them dead last, and that's for a team that has done a really good job this summer and continue to do it this week when they brought in Stepan, Paquette, one of the greasiest fourth-line centermen there is in the NHL. A good pickup. Coburn, a useful veteran that can settle some things down for the kids. Good Branson. I like him as a 5 guy. They've got him higher in the lineup there with, the youngsters. I think they've done a good job. I mean, Stepan gives them somebody to play with, Brady Tkachuk and Dadonov. I mean, that is a plus. Stepan shouldn't be a number 1 guy, but he is there right now. I think he had 28 points last year. He's got to be better. He's got to stay healthy. But I like what Ottawa did, but they are going to finish in 7th place.
They should, Mac. It shouldn't be an ugly 7th place.
No.
It should be one that can win games and maybe keep themselves even in a playoff mix right up until the last couple of weeks.
I mean, I'm a DJ Smith fan. I think with the young stars they have, with the experience they've added to their lineup, I think this is a team that will stay in the race. I think they're going to bother some Canadian teams. I think they're going to be awfully tough to beat on a lot of nights. So kudos to Ottawa for a great summer. And unfortunately, I still have them in 7th. But hey, who knows, a couple of injuries. They're not that far off right now. They even in the last week took some big strides to closing the gap.
I'll tell you where I think the biggest stride was watching Tim Stützle in the World Junior Championship, wow. Mac. And I'm sitting there watching it. And as I conclude watching this series, I'm going, Byfield and Stützle were the question mark at 2 and 3. And I have, after watching that tournament, and listen, Byfield can still turn out to be an excellent hockey player, but I didn't have them close.
Yeah,
I see Stützle as the better player.
He was so much better. He's got so much speed. He's got so much skill. He can play so fast. He can make plays at high speed. This guy is going to be special to watch. But, hey, Byfield is going to be a real top guy too. World Junior, sometimes you can, you can misjudge some guys because a lot of times the really good players are a little young for that tournament. Byfield still a little young for that tournament. So he'll come on. But Stützle was terrific. No denying that. He played with men last year. That was a benefit to him going into a tournament like this. But he's a hell of a player.
Okay, when we skip past Ottawa, this is where the bar gets a lot higher. And I don't know whether or not Connor McDavid could take another year, albeit a shorter one, in this 56-game season. But he doesn't want to miss the playoffs. In Vancouver, they made great strides. They don't want to miss the playoffs. Somebody's going to have to step on the outside here when it's all said and done. I look at Edmonton and Vancouver for me as being on the outside looking in, Mac.
Well, I've changed. I've got Edmonton out, and the reason I've got Edmonton out is Klefbom out for the season. Monumental loss for them on the back end. When you lose your number one defenseman, that is, and then you couple that with the inability to get goaltending. Kostitsyn, Smith, Kenny, I know, tried hard to get Markstrom, fell short. But this goaltending, to me, is a difference maker compared to the other Canadian teams that I have above Edmonton. I hate to see Draisaitl and McDavid out. They're a better team. They've done some good things, but I don't have them in. I've got them out.
In terms of that blue line, it just seems that right now they bring in Tyson Barrie, and Barrie, of course, had great success in Colorado and kind of buckled a little bit in Toronto, Mac. And we heard stories early that, when he was there and Babcock had him under his wing, there wasn't a good feel there. And although with the coaching change, it seemed to have turned a little bit, not enough for the Leafs to even contemplate bringing him back. So where does he sit now in Edmonton as a go-to guy, or a guy that can defend on a team that has trouble defending? This isn't my first solution to a defensive problem, adding Tyson Barrie.
Well, you know what? Tyson Barrie will put his points up because of Draisaitl, McDavid, and company on the power play. I mean, I think he'll get his points. I think he'll be better there. But again, this team gives up way too many chances. So Dave Tippett goes crazy, but giving up chances and having Hellebuck in goal or Markstrom in goal versus Kostitsyn and Smith, I'm sorry, that's where the real shortfall is Klefbom out, not enough good blue liners, and their goaltending subpar. Yeah. I hate to see it. I would love to see McDavid in and Draisaitl in, but I've got them out.
You think Mike Smith and Koskinen finish the season there, or are they going to have to address this a week, 2 weeks, a month into it?
They platooned them both last year, and it was pretty effective. 56 games in 118 days. They're going to need both of them being real good. I got to believe Kenny's on the lookout for goalies, but like who's available? Who's out there?
No,
I mean, that is a problem. There's some teams in trouble because of expansion draft with Seattle, but I don't see the availability. We saw Washington even looking for a backup, and it's tough in that market. So I think they're going to have their hands full improving that position. I got to believe they'll try, And I hope they're okay there, but I don't see it.
All right. You've been around enough top picks to watch them slowly deteriorate in terms of the value of them being an asset, which brings me to Puljujärvi and the decision to bring him back and still hold on to the fact that he can be some sort of valuable asset. In your experience, is it worth the try here?
Well, I think you've got to, like with Kenny coming in Holland and a fresh start. It was ugly there before, pressure on him. He didn't look like he had the greatest hockey sense at times. I think it was good for him to go back and regain his confidence. I hope they start him in a third line situation and see where he is and see if he can learn to play like a total game. He had a good run in Finland, big difference. I think it's a good gamble for them. I really do. And I love Yamamoto. I think he's going to be a real good player for them. Cassian, now I see he's up with they had him up with McDavid early in camp. We'll see where that ends up, but it's still the same. I mean, who's going to be with McDavid? Who's going to be with Draisaitl? We know Nugent Hopkins is going to be on the left side, but who's going to be on the right side and be that number one guy for McDavid or number two guy? That's a problem still.
Nugent Hopkins going into the last year of his deal. A lot of people thought an extension would have been done by now, Mac, but there seemed to be a change of, I don't know, philosophy, idea. It looks like he's not going into this season with an extension just yet. What would you do with him, and how much would you give him?
Well, he's at $6 million, I guess, in that range. I mean, they've got to get him done. I mean, he's a real important guy in their top six. He's become a real solid two-way player. He plays well with McDavid. We were on them for 3 years to move him from center to the wing where they really needed people there. They're still short on the wings. And you know what? But I think Nugent Hopkins is too good a player for Ken to not get him done. I believe they will get him done. I don't think they can afford to lose him with the way their top six is.
All right, we're okay. We're on the same path here. Ottawa, Edmonton, I have on the outside looking in, which means that we need one more team to miss the playoffs, Mac. For me, that's the Vancouver Canucks.
And, that's unfortunately where you're probably wrong. I changed. I made a change here, and I'll tell you why I made a change. I have got Calgary out. I'm bothered by it. I know Markstrom was a great pickup. I know Tanev was a good pickup. Brodie leaves. Tanev comes in. To me, that's a wash.
So you're telling me
Markstrom should be a difference maker. Here's my problem.
On paper, it's asinine to think that you could strip Markstrom and Tanev out of Vancouver to Calgary and then have Calgary make the playoffs and Calgary miss it. Are you nuts?
I look at their blue line: Giordano, Tanev, Hanifin, Anderson, Valimaki, Klingington. I think it's okay, but it's not a great blue line. I like Vancouver's blue line better because of one thing they did this week, bringing in Hamonic. I know he's just a solid guy, but all of a sudden, use Hamonic, okay? Edler, Schmidt, okay? Then you got Myers, Ulevi, Ben. I like that back end better.
Well,
Calgary's. And I'll tell you,
I agree with you.
I'm still not sold. Goudreau and Monahan have still got to do more for me. I'm sorry. What has gone on, dropping from 98 points or whatever to 58 points? I think it's going to come down to this. I've got Vancouver in, barely edging out Calgary, and it's going to come down to goaltending. Is it Holtby and Demko? Is it Markstrom and Riddick? Who is going to be better? I'm taking Vancouver. I know it's a tough one, and I'd love to see Calgary get in. I'd love to see them get in, and maybe they will. I hope it comes down to the last game, and it's Holtby versus Markstrom. And I just, they've got anyway, we can talk about Vancouver. This Hoagland kid looks good for Vancouver right now. He's a Swedish kid, has come over and played real well for them in camp. They got some toughness from McEwen. I just think that Pettersson is who's better, Monahan, Pettersson?
Yeah, you take
who's better? Is Hughes and that blue line better? It's going to be real interesting to see.
I like Hamonic.
A horse.
I like Hamonic coming in and filling in a Tanev spot. I really do, and that's a key pickup. The fact that they were able to agree to a contract is huge for Vancouver. That's a big add for Travis Green.
Big time. And don't forget about this. I'm talking to them this week. Höglander played with Horvat and Pearson. Looked really good. This kid was great in Sweden. He's still a youngster, not very big, but he plays real fast. And right now they really like him. He's a right winger, left shot. Don't forget that name. He's only a 20-year-old. They still have Besser. They still have Miller. I mean, I still think, look, they took a big step. I hate to say Edmonton out, but I'm sorry. I've got Vancouver in. Holtby is a big question mark. Demko's still a question mark.
Well, I think
and Markstrom had 2 real good years.
Holtby, I know, will be better than he was in Washington. Washington's defense was just hideous and left him hanging out to dry an awful lot in Washington. I think he'll get better structure in Vancouver, but I still, Mac, I think Markstrom is the difference maker here. And I think they're going to be motivated in Calgary. I'm with you. I watch the World Juniors, and I watch a guy like Cole Caulfield, and I think very gifted player for the Montreal Canadiens, future Montreal Canadian. But then I watch Johnny Gaudreau struggle in the playoffs, and who's got more skill than that kid? And yet small guys have a tough time still in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Montreal, of course, on the back of their defensive play and their goaltending. Jake Allen will play more. He will give Carey Price more of a rest to get ready for a big run here. Montreal will have enough to make the playoffs, but little else.
Well, you know what? That's going to be real interesting. I got Montreal. I got Montreal in second, and third, I've got Winnipeg. I've got Winnipeg in third. So I've got Vancouver 4 because of all the things we talked about. The one guy we haven't talked about before we leave Calgary is Tkachuk. Hard to bet against this guy. Monahan and Gaudreau have to show a lot more. You know Tkachuk is going to try to carry this team into the playoffs because he's that good and that valuable. But so I have got Winnipeg next. I've got Montreal in second.
Okay, let's go Winnipeg. Before we go Montreal deep, let's go to Winnipeg. Mac, I've got Winnipeg right up there. I like Winnipeg. I don't have them in my top 2. But I look at them. The one concern that I have, Mac, was watching Patrick Laine's press conference. And you tell me as a general manager, you're Kevin Cheveldayoff, and you've been trying to trade him. You haven't got the offer. So you're of the mindset that you're going to keep him. And then you watch that press conference where he would rather be anywhere else than still a member of the Winnipeg Jets. And all you hear is, I'm here, aren't I? I'm here. Mac.
I don't like it.
What you thought shouldn't be a huge distraction, to me, is a huge, huge one.
I'm kind of sick of kids dictating and chirping and, with ultimatums. I know he hasn't been in the media. I get that. He's trying. But he's lost his focus as trying to be a better player.
What ultimatum are you talking about, by the way? This is not on Patrick Laine. This is on the Winnipeg Jets.
I think it's a combination. I think it's a combination of he would like to move on, and they would probably like to move him because they know they can't afford him. That's probably
so. That's not Patrick Laine's fault.
Don't tell me it's all on the Winnipeg Jets. It's also on him and his agency as well.
We saw this dilemma 2 years ago. I was talking about Patrick Laine not being one of their core guys and an untouchable 2.5, 3 years ago when he was playing 12 minutes a night and still scoring at an incredible rate.
But I think he's lost a little focus here. I think he's got to work to be a better all-round player.
But the numbers numbers say, Mac, the numbers say that you can say that and that's fine, but it doesn't stop him from asking for a big number, much like the other top young players are getting in the $9 and $10 million range. His numbers support that, Mac.
That's Winnipeg's problem. But I would like to see him focus on his game right now, because he's got a long way to still go to be a top player in the league for me. Yeah, he can score. I'll give him that. He can score with the best of them. But I'm sorry, I think he's got a ways to go to be that elite player that we thought he was going to be 2 years ago.
He is an elite goal scorer right now. I don't care what you say about his overall play. He can put the puck in the net, Mac, as good as anybody in the league.
He's an elite goal scorer, but I don't have him as an elite player yet.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on Patrick Laine, but they're going to have to move on that awfully quick here, because they're going to find themselves with zero value for him back the longer they wait.
Look, and I love their forward group. Like, forget about him and what's ever going on with him, but their forward group, I mean, you still got to go with Scheifele's line as one of the best lines in the league. Hopefully they stay healthy. Okay. Stastny coming in with line A and Ehlers is a real good number 2 line, and I love Lowry's line. My concern with the fourth line are what they are. My problem with the Winnipeg Jets, I have them in the playoffs, is I'm a little nervous about their back end.
Yeah, the blue line.
That is a big. Now, the one question there on their back end is, I'm not worried about Morrissey. I'm not worried about Pionk. I'm not worried about DeMello. Heinola, their former number 1 pick from a couple of years ago, is a guy that has a chance to be a real difference maker. If this guy can come in from Finland and make their top 4, he has a chance to be a hell of a player. And then you've got good depth with Pullman and Forbert and Bouliot and Spezza. Not Spezza, he's in Toronto, I guess. And you know what? And their lack of blue line finesse bothers me, but Hellebuck, if he has another good year like he did last year, and he's been up and down for me a little bit, but last year, terrific, he can make up for the back end. That's why I've got them in the number 3 spot.
Okay, so that leaves us really Toronto and Montreal. And I, on the top of this segment, said Bergevin's job is on the line if he misses the playoffs, and you have him with a new lifetime contract, finishing first or second in this Canadian division.
Well, I got them in second.
Wow.
I got them in second. I think they've gone from a smallish team that played small to now a team that is
because of Josh Anderson.
Josh Anderson is a tough son of a bitch.
They got Edmondson too on the blue line that gives him some size.
Like that good Western boy that's as tough as nails. I love the toughness that they've added. Toffoli's a 200-foot guy. Frolik is a solid guy. Perry, to me, has a hard time playing in the regular season because of speed. But if they get to the playoffs, Perry will be an important guy as he was in Dallas. But I think they're a better team. I really do. Suzuki, to me, Danault, I'm 100% with those 2 guys down the middle. Suzuki showed me lots.
Oh, Mac, you're asking
to me. I'm still a little nervous in Kotkaniemi.
You're asking a lot out of Suzuki now to come in and be a top player. Is he ready to score, 70 points this year in 56 games? Because that's what's going to have to happen, Mac, if they're going to finish as high as you say.
I don't think he'll have to, but I think he's shown me that he's going to be between him and Danault. They can be moved around depending on offense, defense. They can be a good combination there, using Danault in situations as a number 1, using Suzuki, in the situations. Kotkaniemi, for me, has had 2 good weeks, and I want to see more from him before I, say right now he's perfect in the number 3 hole, I guess. Evans in the number 4 hole. I just think they're a better team. I do, and I think they're much improved. And Allen and Price really changed the dynamic. Price should be 100% rested. No drop-offs on goaltending this year, hopefully. I've got them in the number 2 spot.
Romanov's going to have to come in and play 20 minutes right off the bat. There's no easing him in if you think they're going to finish that high.
Romanov is going to be fine, but it's going to take him 25 games. He's a guy that's a solid defender. He's a big, strong guy. He goes 100 miles an hour. I like Romanov. They got to ease him in, though, and I think they have some time to ease him in. You know, they're okay now with Sherratt, Weber, Edmonston. I think they're fine to take their time with Romanov, and he'll be a real important guy by game 40, game 35.
Now, is it true that you had the Leafs missing the playoffs, but then you found out that Joe Thornton's going to play with Matthews and Marner, and you bumped them up to number 1?
Like, seriously, where are their heads? I mean, I watched this in the playoffs against Columbus last year when the series is on the line and they come with the big 3 as a line together in that game. I'm thinking, what are you guys? Are you Tavares, Marner, and Matthews on one line? Are you guys serious? So here, Joe Thornton with those guys will last about another 12 hours. That's what I'm giving it, another 12 hours. Joe Thornton, like Davos, were out of the playoffs when he left there. Now they're in the playoffs. He was not very good over there. Did they scout him over there? I'm talking to people in Europe and saying, like, really, he was not very good. I know it's a rec league. It's like a rec league. I better be careful. But Joe is an important guy from an experience point of view, from a leadership point of view. But what are you doing with him with Matthews and Marner? Give me a freaking break.
The issue is, like we saw a little bit in the playoffs, is if it doesn't work early, where do you go from there?
Like, to me, you know, I look and they've got Hyman down on the third line.
Wouldn't you be pissed off? Wouldn't you be pissed off if you're Hyman and you're going
playing
like
with Kerfoot and they got Vasey
right?
up on the second line?
I'm going into a year where I need a new contract. I've scored 20 goals the last few years. I pay the price in front of the net. Now you're telling me you got other guys that are going to play in front of the net now. I'd be the biggest ticked off guy if I was Hyman.
Like, Vasey is up in the lineup on the first. I'm like, okay, sorry, plug him in on the fourth line somewhere. I don't care about Vasey, to be quite honest. Hyman is one of their most valuable players. I mean, I know the stars are the stars, the big 4 and Nylander. I get all that, but Hyman's such an important guy. Makhayev's an important guy. They gotta figure this guy out where he's going to be effective. But like, I still think Joe is going to be important for some of the kids. I really do. I think Spets is a good, solid guy. Simmons, to me, I haven't liked one thing he's done for 3 years. You say he's healthy now. I hope that's the case.
Well, that's what they're banking on. I can tell you that they think that, in Philadelphia, they were a bunch of quacks. In Nashville, they couldn't get it right. Nobody could get his health right, but the Leafs have miraculously got this guy 100%. I guess we'll see. Proof will be right on the ice in the first couple of games, Mac.
Like, I love Simmons. I loved his game. I really did. But watching him in Nashville, Buffalo, New Jersey, I'm sorry, I hardly saw a good shift out of him, let alone a good game. So let's hope that he's back and he can be a real solid contributor for them. I've got the Leafs in first because they can score better than any team in the Canadian division. They can score. I think they're going to be better defenders. I think they will be better defenders. Brodie comes in. I'm not sold on Brodie, but I love Morgan Riley, and I think Morgan Riley will make it so that Brodie looks better than he really is because of Morgan Riley. I still think their back end is a question mark. Freddie's great in the regular season. I've got them in first because of their scoring and because of their big boys will score. But don't start getting cute with these stupid lineups. Does
going to a conference final automatically for winning your division enough to appease Leaf fans and ownership if you're Kyle Dubas?
I think, yeah, for sure. I mean, look, they've got very few players in their dressing room who have even won a round of the playoffs. It's scary when you look at their group, how few have even won a round in the playoffs, including Joe Thornton. You know, he hasn't won that many. I know he got to the finals. You know, he's had a cup, but not a lot of playoff success there. Well, he's a Hall of Famer.
You got to remember,
there's not many guys in that dressing room that have had playoff success.
Just remember one thing: that guy is stress-free. How great would your life be if you were stress-free?
The only stress I have in my life is this goddamn show. Other than that, I'm stress-free too. I'm the Joe Thornton of South Florida. I don't have the millions, but I'm stress-free too.
I'm taking good.
Except for this show.
Good. I'm taking your stress right to your grave.
Look, the Leafs are going to finish first. You didn't ask me who was going to win in the playoffs. I'm telling you, they're going to finish first in the regular season.
All right, there you have it. There you have it. One of the last few off-season edition shows, and Mac just brings it right to the very end here. And the only question is where's Joe? Where's Joe Holka right now? Is he out there? We cannot find him.
I'm here, boys. I actually muted myself earlier, so I was actually talking, thinking you guys were interrupting me that entire time, but it turns out I'm just the worst with technology, apparently.
Joe, like, you're just absolutely giving it to Mac on the USA. Come on. You're not finished. There's still some meat on the bone here. Anything you want to say to him?
Well, Kyper, you remember it yesterday. After we got off the air, Doug's just ripping me about, hey, what's the worst thing about the Americans? It's that there's too many Americans on the team, right? So I had to give it to him on Twitter a little bit. I think the thing I miss the most about living in Canada is just like following the World Juniors, right? So I love this tournament. So it was a lot of fun.
Kiss up now, Joe. Listen,
there's no kiss up in my blood, Doug. You know this.
My kids are Americans, by the way. They're dual citizens, so I don't have anything. But the Americans win the World Junior so seldom that we gotta let them celebrate and gotta let them have some fun with it.
We've got a pretty good track record against Canada in the gold medal game recently, Doug. I hate to remind you that.
Let me class it up.
How many goals have they won in the last 10 years?
Let me class it up
Canada,
a little bit.
What is it? The last 4 times they've met in the gold medal game? It feels like it.
I'll class it up.
I've lost interest in it.
All right, I'll class it. Hold on.
If Kirby Doc was there, it'd be a different story. The best Canadian World Junior team ever. They should have took it all the way.
Oh, there's Jordan as well. So let me class it up a little bit on the show on behalf of Doug and I as Canadian citizens. Congratulations.
Yes, congratulations, guys. We're proud of your team.
Good for you. I think that's more than I probably would have given you guys if it was the opposite, right? So I appreciate that.
And a great way to finish off this segment. Mac, great job as always bringing it maybe the strongest we've seen so far in this early year.
This is going to be a Canadian hockey fan's dream year watching this Canadian division. And then when Seattle comes in to make it the 8th team, it's going to be terrific.
All right. That's a good way to leave this segment off. For all of you watching, thanks for joining us. First-time watchers, subscribe. Check out our various videos, and then we'll get ready for 2021. All the best, everybody. Thanks for watching.